Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it with Sister JayJay. Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it with Sister JayJay.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay, and I'm your host, Sister JayJay. Today's conversation is ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. With me, I have Eileen Davis and Andrea Miller. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. You all have been fighting a mighty fight for the women, correct?
Yes, we have.
And the men.
Yes.
Okay, we can't forget the men.
This is about gender equality.
Okay.
For all persons.
Well, talk to me about this fight.
Well, to begin with, 72% of Americans think that this fight is over. They think that gender equality is in the U.S. Constitution, and 96% think it already is. So what we're really fighting for is for the Constitution in our country to be what most Americans either think it already is or want it to be.
Okay. So tell me, why do you think most Americans think it is what it should be?
Well, it's mostly just misinformation, and you know, the Equal Rights Amendment has been a fight that's been going on since 1923.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a long history, and the last time we fought about it was back in the 70s when Congress passed the Equal Rights Amendment, but the process of constitutional amendment says it has to go through 2/3 of the states. 3/4 of the states, excuse me, which is 38 states.
Okay.
We went through 35 states, and then we ran out of time because it had a ratification deadline on it.
Okay.
Now, if you live in one of those 35 states, like I did, you remember it passing. And so people in 35 states remember it passing. What they don't recognize is that it never constitutionally ratified, which means it never became part of the United States Constitution and remains so today.
Okay, so you said that there was a deadline. Talk to me a little about that deadline.
Well, that's where the devil's in the details. Because what happened was when the ratification deadline hit in 1982, first it hit in 1979, and then they put a 3-year extension on it. And that's important because that shows us and proves that Congress has the right to impose a deadline and Congress has the right to remove a deadline. But what it also does is it's in conflict with the fact, and this can get very legally wonky, but it's part of the conversation. Article 4 of the Constitution does not speak about ratification deadlines being part of the constitutional process.
Okay.
But what it does say is that the pursuit of constitutional amendments have to be treated equally with some parity. And what we found in 1990, when 82 came and went, we thought, okay, we're done. We're over it. We ran out of time. Oh well. Then in 1992, the Madison Amendment was passed.
27th Amendment.
The 27th Amendment, which was conveniently the amendment that gave Congress the right to receive its salary. And that came up during sequestration when all the Congress people were like, don't get mad at us, the Constitution says we have to take our pay. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, that was the Madison Amendment.
Right, the original President Madison.
Yeah, as in
203 years old.
As in named after James Madison.
Right.
So what happened is, people who had fought for the Equal Rights Amendment said, wait a minute, flag on the field. We're timed out in 10 years, and y'all just gave yourselves a raise with a 200-year start to finish plus 200-year start. We're flag on the field, no good. So then we started looking at it, and then we realized that we had the right to say to Congress, you can remove this deadline.
Right.
And I have a 27-page congressional review study with me, which I will leave with you, which goes into all the issues about how Congress has the right to remove the deadline, and in states that are unratified have the right to go ahead and ratify themselves.
Okay.
So what we have, frankly, is this catch-22 situation. Andrea spends most of her time. I'm sorry.
No, you're
That's
fine.
for you, actually.
Okay. Well, let's pause right there. I picked it up, and you also are the co-founder of Women Matter. Correct?
Women Matter, use your power, and this is for you.
Women Matter, use your power.
And this is our statement. We educate and we advocate, and we mobilize and we vote. We want ERA yes.
Okay.
And that's for you.
Well, thank you. Tell me a little bit about more about what you all do.
Well, Women Matter we're basically Virginia-based. We're part of a national coalition, of groups all across the country, part of an ERA coalition, and also we work with Andrea's group, which is a national group. And our focus is to get Virginia to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, because Virginia is holding up the whole country.
Wow. Now, you're telling me that the Commonwealth of Virginia is holding up this whole process?
Well, they're one of three states.
One of 15.
One of 15 states.
One of 15.
Right. But we have two states that is closer than any other state to ratifying. And that's Virginia and Illinois.
Okay.
And then once that happens, we only have one more state, and then we can petition. We will have met the 38th state, and then we can finally become part of the Constitution. Women currently are not protected in the Constitution.
What can Virginia do?
Ratify the Equal Rights Amendment.
Well, let me give you some very specific things that Virginia can do. On Monday, there is going to be a vote in the Virginia Senate.
Okay.
And that is going to be on ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment.
Okay.
So people can come down to the General Assembly Monday afternoon and be in the gallery when that vote happens.
Right.
Okay.
And they notice when a lot of people show up. Nothing they like better than to do something when nobody's watching.
Correct.
And when they see an overflowing gallery, they see a lot of people there wearing these pins, holding that little mini banner right there, they pay attention. And the Senate session comes in. And I have to tell you, just getting to this vote on the Senate floor of the Virginia Senate has been an unbelievable dogfight.
I can imagine.
But the part of it that I have to tell you, JayJay, is as I've gone through this process, one of the heaviest lifts for me was understanding that there was so much opposition, because it really always seemed to me like a free lollipops, like an I like puppies. Like, how could you be against the idea of inclusional gender equality in the Constitution?
I understand. Okay, let's give the people some reasons, more specific reasons why they should get excited about this and show that they are in favor of the ratification. Let's talk about some of the statistics that you all have shared with me. We're speaking about the pay rate compared to men.
Well, let's just and always you go look at the money. So when you
show me the money.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what everybody.
They will give you all kinds of reasons they don't want it, but at the end of the day,
show me the money and give me my money.
Women represent a cheap labor force. At the end of the day, major corporations don't want to have to pay women equally, because that translates into a lot of money.
Break down some of those rates for me.
Asian women, 87 cents to a man's dollar. White women, 77 cents to a man's dollar. African American women, 65 cents to a man's dollar. Native Americans, 60. Hispanic women, 55. So it is not only sexist, it's racist.
Yeah. And we were speaking earlier that a lot of African American women think that this is a white woman's fight. You're sharing with me, Eileen, that this is not a white woman's fight.
No.
Talk to me.
Well, the reason that it's perceived is that in the early fight in the 70s, a lot of it became a culture war. This is about money. This is about you get up, you get dressed, you go to work, you want to be paid fairly. That's what this is about. But people try to turn it into a culture war. And in the 70s, it was the culture war of whether or not women should work at all. Well, that was never a discussion in communities of color, because women in the communities of color have always worked.
Right.
Women in the poor white communities have always worked. That seemed to be sort of like a June Cleaver problem. That they can sit around and talk about all they want about whether or not they should work or not. I don't have that. I don't ask that question because I have to work,
Right.
And so that's where
I better work.
Right, of course I'm working. I'm working.
Right.
And the idea is that turned into, it sounded like it was just some kind of like, should I have champagne or wine for lunch? I mean, it sounded like a dilettante conversation. But that's really what it wasn't about. And part of the problem that we've had over the fight for the Equal Rights Amendment is that people try to turn it into a culture war that it isn't. They try to turn it into a mommy war. The other argument is that this is a mommy war between, that women who choose to stay at home are somehow being picked on. This is, I don't care if you stay home. I don't care if you go to work. That's between you and your man. I don't care. But if you go to work, you shouldn't have to worry about whether or not you're being treated fairly. And the law should protect you.
But there's been a really big change. In 2013, 67% of married women were working.
Yes. Yes.
So married women are going to work because families need the two incomes.
Yet they're still unequally paid.
Right.
Well, right. Even if they're literally doing exactly the same job for the same organization.
And it's nothing's illegal about it.
If they really looked at it, the man would be getting one amount and the woman would be getting another. And that's one of the ways that we know this is still going on because, people go, wait a minute. When you made your deposit, it was this amount, and when I made mine, it was that amount. Did you get overtime in there or something? No, that was just my regular. What?
Well, let me talk about overtime. This is a kitchen table economics issue. That's what this is.
Okay.
And every man watching this should pay attention because your combined income, you and your partner's income has been affected because if she isn't being paid what she's worth, your combined pot of money that's got to pay your bills is being depressed.
Right.
Is being depressed. So this is a kitchen table issue. This is an economic issue. The other thing is if a woman has to work 30% more to make the same money as a man who works with her, she stays extra overtime because she can pick up 3 extra hours and make up the difference. That woman is not at home. So this is a family issue. When a woman has to work a second job or take a second shift or take an extra day to meet her financial expenses, that woman is away from her children.
And her children, her husband.
Right.
Now, we're speaking about men because I'm going to assume that there are some men that are saying, blah, 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 the women just want more for those that it may fit. But you always sharing with me that this affects men not only in that aspect, but if corporate America realized that, or they have realized that I can pay the women less, that means they don't have to hire as many men, correct?
It's downward pressure.
Exactly.
Right,
they don't have to hire
that.
as many men. They don't have to give them raises. There's now this understanding that, we can only press for so much, otherwise we're going to start seeing more women coming in here, and then as the men leave, it'll just become more and more women. And we'll be out of the workforce.
Because the women are be willing to take less.
We work for less.
We work for less. And interestingly enough, in the current day and time, more men are unemployed than women.
And that's why.
What is the ratio? You guys were sharing that with me. Was it 30% less women? No, 30% more women working? Or something of that nature?
Yeah, there are more men seeking work that haven't found it than women seeking work and haven't found it. We're not talking about people who aren't trying to get jobs.
Right.
If a man and a woman go out and try to find a job, the woman is likely to get a job, but it's also likely to be less pay.
Less pay. And that's because women are willing to accept less pay.
Well, and in many cultures, you have women who are supporting their children. So the moment there's an opportunity, they're going to grab it.
Yes, and there are a lot of incentives. There's a lot of motivations, which Andrea just spoke about why women will take the first job they can get, because they're often supporting children. There's a lot of single moms out there. They got to work. They're not going to sit around and just wait for the right job. They take the job that they can get. And the other problem that we have is that there is also, when you have paid down, now let's take a man and a woman both have the same job in the same office. And let's break it down. The man is making, just for argument's sake, he's making $40,000 a year. And the woman's making, let's say, $27,000 a year. And that would almost correlate to the difference in pay disparity. She's in a situation where out of that already depressed gross salary, if she has children, she's got to come up with the money for childcare.
Right.
So, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. If you're making less to begin with, and then you've got other expenses on top of it, how much downward pressure is on that woman before she says, it's just not even worth it for me to put my pantyhose on in the morning.
Right.
So this is the downward pressure that we're seeing, is that women are being pushed out because the costs of going to work are not compensated by the salary. We had a young woman speak to the Senate subcommittee the other day, and she was very, very powerful. She's a freshman at VCU, and I say that because we went to the subcommittee and they had to vote it out of the subcommittee. And I had alluded to what a fight it's been to get to the floor for a vote, which is what we're going to be doing on Monday. And I would ask people to come to the Capitol at 11:45 to sit in the gallery and make a statement that a lot of people care about this issue. And this young woman said a very powerful thing. She said, I am an 18-year-old college freshman, and I am going to be graduating with a lot of debt. Now, in the paperwork I have with me, I have the Economic Policy Institute has broken down the different disparities of this and that. And what they found, and a lot of times the other side will say to you, well, women make less money because they want to, because they have children, they don't want to work as many hours, and they start coming in with all these overlapping reasons why things can be the way they are. And anybody who's adult knows that there's always more than one reason for something.
Right.
There's more than one reason why you get married. There's more than one reason why you get divorced. There's more than one reason why you move. I mean, there's never a singular issue. But the interesting thing is that the Economic Policy Institute has clearly graphed that the first job out of college, before all these other overlapping considerations could be blamed, you take a male and a female with the same degree from the same school, you automatically see an 8 to 12% pay disparity with the first job. Now, I had a professor, an accounting professor, say to me, who knows the work that Andrea and I do, he said to me, for 30 years I've been an accounting professor, and I have that young woman in the front row that's my star student, always prepared, hand up, knows the answers, and I got that boy in the back who's flipping through his phone, half awake. He gets through, he graduates, he gets out. He says, without fail, I will run into those kids 6 months to a year after school and ask them what they're doing. Without fail, the boy will have a better job with more money. And he says, and frankly, I'm sick of it because it's just wrong. And without fail, over 30 years, I've seen that. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that once you take that first job, one of the things that happens is when you go for your second job, first thing they ask you, what were you making at your last job? That's how they set your salary. They'll give you, they have a calculation. Anybody in this audience that works in HR knows what I'm talking about. They'll say, okay, this young woman, his first job out of college, she just worked for 3 years, got her feet wet, now she's going for the next job. She was making $30,000 a year. We're going to give her a 4% raise. So we're going to now make her salary $34,000 or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And then we have this boy who comes in. Now his first job out of school was $35,000. He's going to get the same 4% raise, but that raise is already, so second job, you start seeing that gap just widens and widens and widens and widens because your second job is based on a salary incremental from your first job. And if your first job is here, then your second job is here and your third job is here. If your first job is here, women don't catch up.
Right.
And there's an estimate that says women over their career probably lose $200,000 to $300,000.
Wow.
Over the lifespan of their career.
And that is a lot. That is like unimaginable. Listen, let's take a break right now. Wonderful conversation. We're going to be right back. You're watching Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay.
If you would like to appear as a guest on my show, please reach us at Facebook at Sister JayJay. That's SistaJayJay. We would love to talk about it.
God bless you, people of God. It's good to be able to talk to you once again. I'm Pastor Sylvester Battle Jr. with Word, Spirit, and Life Ministries, the Enlargement Center.
And I'm Lady B.
We want to invite you to come fellowship with us. This is where we're teaching the Word of God and the Spirit of God is moving. We're at 3600 North Street, Chester, Virginia. Times is at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Listen, you're so welcome here. You're more than welcome. We're We look forward to seeing you.
My name is Makara Jones, and you're watching Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay.
You're watching Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay. Welcome back. I have Eileen Davis with me and Andrea Miller, and we're talking about ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. Now, you were talking with me about a young lady finishing college, and she was speaking.
Well, she's concerned about the fact that if there's going to be an 8 to 12 disparity in her pay between the boy that sits next to her in class, who has the same degree from the same school, her position, which is very clear, and they love to talk about student debt. Oh, student debt is a terrible, terrible problem. What are we going to do about student debt? Well, when you think about it, it's females that student debt is really going to hurt, because with the current paradigm, as she put in front of the state senators, she wants them to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, because when she graduates from college and gets her job, she wants to know that she's going to have the same opportunity to pay down that student debt. She's not getting 30% less on her college tuition. She's going to graduate with the same debt. And if she's making a couple of $100 less a month, that's a better car, that's a better apartment, that's a quicker pay down on student loan. She doesn't want to have a stretched out repayment of student loan because coming out of the gate, she's getting paid less.
Right. And it's not fair.
No,
And the unfortunate thing is that you're saying there is no law in place to stop this.
Absolutely not. And that's the interesting part. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Scalia and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who are two Supreme Court justices that agree on very little. If you watch any of their cases, they are always on the opposite side of every case. They actually both agree on this. They have both publicly stated that the Constitution of the United States does not prohibit against discrimination on gender. They've both said this within the last, Scalia said it in 2011, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in Newsweek back in, December 8th, I believe it was, of last year. It's not even 3 months ago. Said the same thing, that we need an Equal Rights Amendment because gender discrimination is not prohibited. It's implied, it can be interpreted, but clearly we've got two Supreme Court justices that don't interpret it there. We want to be unequivocally protected, and the only way to do that is with an Equal Rights Amendment. I mean, think about it. Prohibition, they put in prohibition to make a constitutional amendment making alcohol illegal. This book was just released about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
This is all relevant issues for this fourth wave of getting this job done. This has been going on, as we said, for a long, long time. And a lot of your audience, and that's the thing, if a lot of your audience, if they've never even known this problem existed, are like, I didn't know that problem existed. The ones that do know about it think it's a 30, 40-year-old problem. And they're like, well, that was back in the 70s. This is a fight for a new day. This is the new approach. We have bills in Congress, which Andrea will talk about because that's where she spends most of her time, to remove the ratification deadline so that I, in Virginia, can get Virginia to ratify a freshly ratified state, and then we can pull it in and turn Virginia into the 36th ratified state.
And I like what you said, that for the audience that think that this is an old fight and that this is for the older people, this really affects the younger generation if there is not something done.
But I do it, as I always say to my team, for my daughters, my granddaughters, or the women who came before us. Because the women who came before us, generations of women, Alice Paul, women who have died never having this done. I pay homage to them. I do it for them, and I do it for my daughters, and I do it for my 5 granddaughters.
Because they have to grow up.
Right.
And one day they're going to be going to college, they're going to be finishing college, and they're going to be out in the workforce. And if this is not ratified, they're going to be in a very worse situation that we're in now. So the younger generation understand that this is not just for the older people.
No.
This is not just a white woman's fight or the mother at home fight or the mom that's married and she just wants to work fight. This is a fight for the people. So you all should be intrigued with this. All you have to do is vote when you're asked to vote. Believe in what you're voting for. Show your face. Let Congress know that you're not going to stand for this.
Right.
Well, Congress and the Virginia legislature.
And the Virginia legislature.
The Virginia legislature first. That's Monday.
Now, talk to me about, because Eileen said that you're the woman that does that.
All right, I spend most of my time in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So what we're doing in Washington, D.C. is we've got this dual track. We're working to pass legislation that removes the ratification deadline. The ratification deadline in the ERA is basically in the preamble, as it were. It is not in the amendment itself. So when states ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, they didn't ratify the deadline. They ratified the literal amendment itself. So that's our legal reason for saying you can remove the deadline. It was never part of the original amendment. And so we're working with Congress to remove the ratification deadline. So our bills will be introduced in the House and the Senate in March.
Okay.
They're waiting for Women's History Month, and it'll probably be right around Women's Equality Day.
Okay.
But we need to clarify something. In this last session, we had the same bills in. Part of the thing is we're constantly refilling the tub. We had 147 congresspersons signed on to our bill, and 36 U.S. senators, including both of Virginia's senators, signed on to our bill in Washington. Now, in March, that all scrubs out, and we have to get it all back and go from there. We have to start fresh. So you get so far in new Congress.
Correct.
So,
Right.
yeah, and a lot of them will sign back on ceremoniously. But the point of the matter is every time you get a new Congress, it's just like the ratification deadline. You run out of time, and then you got to start again. You run out of time, and you got to start again.
You get new members. You get people who were never there before, who haven't heard the arguments. And so you've got to start over again with the arguments. We're here to ask you to support the Equal Rights Amendment, and all of a sudden it becomes ERA 101 again.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the problems that we've come up with, JayJay, is that because it's taken so long, people look at you and they give you a little bit of a skeptical look, and they're like, "Well, if it hasn't happened, what's wrong with it?" They look at you because I think it's time that we tell you what the Equal Rights Amendment says. Equality of rights shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any of its states on account of sex. That's it.
That's it.
That is it.
And then on a business card.
Oh yeah, my business card. My business card. I hand out my business card, and on the back of the card is the Equal Rights Amendment. As I tell people, it's so simple you could tweet it.
Correct.
And section 2 of it, this shall take effect 2 years after ratification. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is. And like I said at the beginning, that one of the hardest parts for me is to really kind of like understand, because I really don't get the problem. But other than the fact that I've come to understand, they'll give you all kinds of reasons. They'll tell you the ratification deadline. They can't. That way, nobody admits they don't want. See, now this is the other thing. Back in the day, and I don't really like to go back because I don't like to build on the idea that this is some kind of old problem that is just don't let go of. But it's important that we look back, because you got to know your past so you don't repeat it. Exactly. So the interesting thing is in the 20s, when it was supposed to be the 20th Amendment, it wasn't the 20th Amendment because they were concerned about petticoat rule. I mean, that sounds ridiculous today, but that was their argument. And then the other argument was, we gave you the right to vote. That's enough. Be grateful. Be quiet. Stop. You got the right to vote. Now you're just asking for more. So then we went into this petticoat rule. Then we went into this madman culture, which all right. And there was that kind of idea, and the June Cleaver myth and all of that. And then we got into the 70s, and it was fear of women in the military. Well, that's a big old. Everybody's like,
on TV.
All right, that's a big old.
Just join the military.
Yeah, so that's a big old not a problem anymore.
Okay.
The other problem was family bathrooms. I notice here in this studio you have a unisex bathroom. Can you imagine denying constitutional gender equality because we're worried about bathrooms? And but that was the argument. I mean, it's insane. And that's the point. Every generation has looked back on the resistance, and said, like, you know, people in the 70s that were arguing about women in the military thought the idea of petticoat rule was ridiculous. Now we're looking back on them and thinking their reasons were ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what happened was, when it ratified, timed out in 1982, when the whole thing went into this like stall, you know, now we are 30, as I said in the beginning, now we are, all these years later, our culture has grown beyond all of the resistance to the Equal Rights Amendment. Oh, so much to the point that our culture thinks it's done.
Yeah.
And now we have to like walk it back and say, wait, hold up, it's not done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when Kelly Ayotte, a Republican from New Hampshire, and by the way, this is a bipartisan bill. It has always been a bipartisan bill.
Alice Paul was a Republican.
Alice Paul was a Republican. Now, over the last couple of years, it's taken a very partisan twist. But it was always, again, it's a
So why do you think that?
because it's a cheap labor force, and you know, corporations don't want, you know, the law telling them how they should treat their employees. Right. So it's about the money. It's always been about money.
Yeah.
It's always about the money, you know. And I had a woman say to me, it's not a black problem, it's not a white problem, it's a green problem. And that's what it is. It's a green problem. And it's always been about the money. But they won't say that to you, so they come up with all these kind of like shifty reasons, and it's often they just kind of get off in the weeds and they start saying, oh, the ratification deadline says we can't allow it, and all this kind of stuff. It's a big smoke
So you
screen.
find yourself going in a circle per se.
In a circuit, it's a big circular loop. Exactly. And what we have in the situation that we're in now is we have the inertia of an entire generation of women, the inertia of nothing. And people go, well, you know, if we try to ratify, we could end up in the court. So what? Bring
Why
it.
there is a court.
That's what the court is for.
Eileen, you got a little gangster up in you. You said, bring it.
Bring it. Really, we welcome that, because women in 2000 and what are we in 15, right? 2015, right? In 2015, we want this debate. We want to have that. I mean, the idea that women don't understand that it's not done because it's not talked about. I live for the day when this is what they're talking about on CNN. Oh, the Equal Rights Amendment. Should we ratify it? Should we allow it? I welcome that, because that's what we need to break this inertia of misinformation, of people mistakenly thinking it's done. You tell American women that they are not treated equally under the Constitution, so says Supreme Court justices, and then the public will drive it. The public will finish this. So we have to wake up that sleeping giant, which are the women in this country, who are the majority of the population.
So do you think that the reason why it's is hard to get the women to wake up to this realization is because you actually have some women that are well off. You have some women that are making more money than their spouse. So
Right, they may be making more money than their spouse, but the question is, are they making an equal amount of money to the other men that they're
working for? You know,
so that's what you say, is that part of the reason why it's so hard to get some women to join in on this, because, hey, I'm doing better than what I was doing before. I don't want to rock the boat.
They really don't know, because salaries are secret.
Now talk to me about the
Salaries are secret. Most companies, I'm self-employed and the executive director, but most companies, when you begin working, one of the little forms you're asked to sign is this guarantee that you will not discuss your salary with anyone, not any other employees.
Why do you think that is?
You're going to keep it secret.
Right, and you can be fired if you talk about your salary.
So for a young lady that's making 6 figures or more, she's content with what she has.
She's going, I'm making 6 figures. It's like, she's like, I'm making $102,000.
And then I had one person let me one day, well, look at how much money Oprah Winfrey makes. Well, now that takes care of the problem. You know, there's always
Oprah Winfrey is supposed to suffice for all of the other African American women.
There's always an outlier. There's always an outlier.
I have nothing against Oprah. Do your thing.
You know,
but
Oprah, we
that's
love you.
Oprah's money. That's not
Oprah
my money.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the kind of, so, you know, we're not talking about the CEO. And I've had people go, well, look at how that woman who's the CEO, you know, that Crowley Farino or whatever. Okay. There's always an exception, but I'm talking about the vast majority of women.
The average woman.
The average woman. Laws are supposed to protect the everyday person.
Well, now it's not necessarily all that average. Remember who was she? The new president of GM.
Oh,
when she
yeah.
discovered she was making 50% less than her male counterpart. I mean, it was like, whoa. So you're going to say that this woman became president, but yet somehow
she still can't get paid.
Right. All of her background and experience
and
education did not make her equal to the man who had previously
and
held
even
the job.
she in her position did not know that she was underpaid. And like that whole thing with the Sony studios getting cracked open and people finding out that Jennifer Lawrence was making a lot less than the men that she was acting with. Well, I know about you, but I can't even tell you the names of the boys that are on the Hunger Games with that girl. That girl's the movie, and suddenly she's not the most valuable.
That was a big thing in Hollywood. Early part of 2014, latter 2013, on one of the talk shows, the actors were speaking about how the men were getting paid more than the women, and one of the arguments was that the women had children to tend to, and they couldn't.
That's the kind of nonsense we put up with. Even though half the actresses in Hollywood have really good child care. They don't, and they can afford the child care, which brings us back to
Or they were getting more roles.
Right.
The males were getting more roles than the women because of, it was serious.
How I take care of my children and how my daughters take care of their families is not their employer's business. If I show up at work and I put in a day's work, how I take care of my children, whether I'm taking them to daycare, whether or not I have them. There's the presumption that the father is not taking care of their children. There are a lot of men who don't like the fact that they are disrespected, that they are co-parenting. I know of a situation where a young man who is a very strong feminist was on a conference call about an emergency at work. And this is the kind of what I call nice guy misogyny that we have to put up with. And he's on the conference call with the team, and there's a female on the team, and they have some kind of a crisis, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And the boss, it's a teleconference, so they're all on the phone from different locations. And the boss says, okay, we got to get this done. We got to have this done. The crunch time, we got to have it done by, Sunday, 6 o'clock, whatever. We got to, all hands on deck, blah, blah, blah. And then he breaks in and he goes, oh, Julie, you're exempt from the extra hours. We know you have children.
Oh, wow.
And, one of the other men who has children has said, excuse me, but I have children too, and I think that everybody does. Sorry.
I hate to do it to you, but we're going to have to cut right here. And we'll be right back after this short break. You're watching Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay, ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. We'll be right back.
It's about talking about a situation and coming up with a solution. It's a show that the people need, that the people are yearning for. Let's talk about it.
God bless you, people of God. It's good to be able to talk to you once again. I'm Pastor Sylvester Battle Jr. with Word, Spirit, and Life Ministries, the Enlargement Center.
And I'm Lady B.
We want to invite you to come fellowship with us. This is where we're teaching the Word of God and the Spirit of God is moving. We're at 3600 North Street, Chester, Virginia. Times is at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Listen, you're so welcome here. You're more than welcome. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi, my name is Robin Tyler, and you're watching Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay.
Go get your blessings, go get it, go get it, go get your blessings. Time is your time, it's your time, it's your time. You are made to live a good life, and that's what I believe. To get the force, get the safe, start working. You gotta do
Go get it. Come on over here, Jackie Thomas. What a befitting song for this conversation. Awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I really enjoyed that. Oh, we're going to hit it again, huh? Hit it again. Tell me what you're doing.
You know what? I'm working on some more music and just doing a mother and wife thing.
Awesome.
And regular full-time job till the other stuff takes off.
To the other stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
So you do have an album that's due to drop?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me about that.
The first song would be Hallelujah to the King. I'm excited about that. And then we have some other songs coming after that. But that's about set to come on out so you can get it.
Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook at Jackie Holmes Thomas. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Jackie112. That's JACCI 112.
And when can they expect your album to drop?
Hopefully, what is this? In the summertime.
Summer of 2015.
Yes, summer 2015.
Well, I'll be the first to get mine because I want to go get my
I
blessing.
know that's right.
Now, we were speaking about ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment and you being a full-time mom, wife, and working and pursuing your career. I think this is a subject that you would love to chime in on because it will affect you. And before the commercial, we were talking about how this actually affects individuals in the performing arts field.
Okay.
You know, Eileen and Andrea was sharing with us how there is even a difference in that field with women and men getting paid. How do you feel about that? You're dropping your album and you got this guy that might be making a little bit more money than you or a better deal.
Pop quiz. Did you even know that the Constitution didn't cover gender discrimination?
Yes.
You knew.
And no.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
You know how you know, but you don't know the depth of what is actually going on. And probably most people are like that.
Exactly.
You don't know the depth of what's going on.
Yeah.
So with that, how do you feel about that?
It's definitely unfair. You know, because women put in just as much work as men, and they should be paid equally. It's discouraging in this day and time that that's even an issue.
Right.
You know.
Right. Or that it's as hard to get it done as it's turning out to be.
Right.
Yeah. That's the real. That's the real rub.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that we have a glitch in the Constitution that we're trying to fix is one thing. The fact that there's so much resistance to fix it, that's just an insult on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And that's really what we need to talk about. But you brought up how to reach you on Facebook. I think I'll plug us now.
Go ahead.
If you go on www.women-matter.org, and the dash matters, so you can get on our mailing list, and you can also learn more about the issue. Okay. On Facebook, we've got a couple of pages. Our one page is called On Account of Sex. We get a lot of hits on that one.
I bet you do.
And it's really equality of rights shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any other state on account of sex. Well, on account of sex gets
Talk
a
to
lot
me
of
about that. Now, listen, we only got a few minutes left.
And
so
we also have fourth wave feminism.
Okay.
Because this is the fourth wave of feminism, and I don't want people saying, "Oh, I'm not a feminist." If you believe that women and men should have equal opportunity and equal pay, I'm sorry, hate to tell you, but you're a feminist, because that's all feminism means. They can hijack the word, they can pervert the word, they can try to make it, and that's part of the opposition, is to make women think that there's something wrong with them wanting to take on the right of equality.
Oh, okay.
And that's what it is. So fourth wave feminism is our page, and then our last Facebook page is Women Matter, Use Your Power. And I also want to drop in right now that we have a VCU chapter.
Okay.
And the VCU chapter tends to stay around Women Matter, Use Your Power. That tends to be the college team. We have a very, very strong VCU chapter. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, you guys should have a lot going on. Now, with all of the fight that you all are doing, there's also some resistance. Yes. Correct. So talk to me about the Dillon versus Gloss and Coleman versus Miller. Talk to me about that.
Well, the resistance, as Andrea and I said, is really about a cheap labor force. And then there is the culture war where people believe that, like as we said at the beginning of the show, that if women are not at home, the world's going to fall apart. And as we talked about, 67% of women today are working.
Married women.
Married women.
74% of women are working.
74% of women are working. 67% of women that are married are working. So it's a non-issue of whether or not women should be working. But there are still some people that feel that if we make it easier, that more women aren't gonna work. I would suggest to you that if women are making more money, then maybe they might have the ability to be home with their kids, helping with homework. Because right now, women are working longer and harder for less.
Well, I can tell you from being a single mom, if you give me more money, I'm going to stay at home a little bit more. I'm going to work like I'm supposed to work, but I'm going to stay home to raise my children. More money allows me more time to be there for my kids, and allows me more opportunities for my children. So I totally agree with that. It doesn't mean that I make more money and that I'm just not going to work. No, I'm going to spend the money too. So give me more money, because I'm going to spend it. I'm going to save now, and I'm going to invest, because I believe in leaving an inheritance for my children. But I'm going to spend some of that money that you give me. So it's a win-win situation. Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Exactly.
If you pay me, I'm going to feel like I have extra money to spend. So I'm going to buy from your company, because a lot of corporations are invested in different companies. So I'm going to buy. I'm going to take the vacations. I'm going to buy the clothes, the shoes, the house. I'm going to buy the car. Now, mind you, I did say I'm going to invest and I'm going to save, but I'm going to spend. The average person is going to spend. If you give them more money, they're going to spend. So it stands to reason that you will give more money and give me these health benefits that we're not going to go on that, but if you keep me healthy, I'm going to come to work, so that you can pay me more money, so that I feel like I can spend more money. So it is, as you say, it helps the economy.
And what you just touched on is you said, if you give me good health benefits. One of the people that spoke at the Senate subcommittee was a gentleman who has worked in unions all of his life. And what he came up and said to the Senate subcommittee, it was Senate full committee actually at that point, was that in the union world, the union collective bargaining has created an environment that looks like what the rest of us would look like if we all worked under the collective bargaining of constitutional protection. And in the collective union bargaining world, you can clearly grid that women who have guaranteed pay equal to the men they work with through that collective bargaining, and they have equal opportunity for advancement under that collective bargaining, that women and men work side by side very, very effectively, and that women have a very stable and a growth curve that looks very similar to men. And so what he said is that if the collective bargaining union environment proves to us that if you create a work environment where the boss has to treat men and women equally and pay them equally and give them equal opportunity for those promotions and such, and that's the other thing we've been talking about, is how women don't get promotions
real quick. Let's because we're almost out of time.
Well, like what I said before in this conversation, when that gentleman on the phone conference said to the woman, "Oh, you don't have to do it," presuming that she was going to be the weak link. Now that's in his head. And then when the man on the conference call, who considers himself a feminist, who has female children, and he's very sensitive to this, and a professional wife, and he's thinking, he calls the boss out on it, and then he says, and then the woman goes, "Well, yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't have any problem with the extra hours." No, but the thing is, the guy didn't ask her. He assumed that she was going to be the weak link. Now, if he really has that up in his head, when it comes time for him to promote somebody, he's sure not going to think of her. It will not be her.
Because he already have the presumption that he's not going to be able to handle that.
And that's what I call nice guy misogynist. I mean, he doesn't dislike women. He just diminishes women and hasn't really thought through why.
And I want to grab a quick thing on your unions. only 6% of people in America are in unions. So that
Exactly.
means 94% of us have a problem.
Right.
We've got nobody guaranteeing that we're going to get equal pay.
Wow.
We're
Now
just
that
out there.
I didn't know.
We're just out there.
Yeah. So we're just we're not protected.
Right, we're not.
Yeah, you're not girded. You have no one fighting.
So
for
ladies,
you.
get a union job because it's all you got.
That's all you got.
all you
Do
got.
like Jackie. Go out there and get your blessing.
That's it.
Well, yeah, and your blessing is going to be that union job.
That union job, exactly. Thank you, ladies, for coming on and sharing this very important topic with us. Please log on, check out the Facebook, the website, womenmatter.org. I went on. There's a
Women
lot
dash
of
matter.
women, because the dash matters.
Thank you.
And I've actually
And come to the Capitol on Monday.
Yes,
You
please
can
do
walk
that.
to it from where we're sitting. It's right there in 9th and Broad. Come to the Capitol. Be in the gallery. Be seen. Be heard in numbers too big to ignore.
Let them know that women do matter and that we're not going to stand for it. Thank you all for being on the show. Thank you, Jackie, for being on the show. I definitely enjoyed this. It was very informative, and the people needed to hear this. Once again, Jackie, where can the people find you?
On Facebook, Jackie Holmes Thomas, that's JACCI, and on Twitter and Instagram at JACCI112.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that'll do it for Let's Talk About It with Sister JayJay. We thank you all for allowing us to chime in and have this conversation with you. We'll see you all next week, same place, same time. And remember, talking about it can fix the problem.
Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it with Sister JayJay. Come